gives me an honor. It's a great honor to speak here today. In Japantown, in a city that owes so much of its history and accomplishments to people who had the courage to immigrate to this city for greater opportunities and for refuge. This community knows all too well that invoking the Alien Enemies Act of 1798 to deport without due process over 200 Venezuelan immigrants is dangerous and should shock the conscience of every single American. My predecessor, Jeff Adachi's parents and grandparents, were rounded up and wrongfully incarcerated in internment camps under that logic. And that was a motivating factor for him in becoming a public defender. What Jeff believed and what every public defender in my office believes, and everyone gathering here today, is that everyone deserves their day in court.
Absolutely.
Everyone. Some of the people who were essentially kidnapped by the US government and shipped off to El Salvador in violation of a federal court order have pending civil court dates in order to obtain their immigration status. These individuals are now being held indefinitely in a country that suspended its own constitution with no speedy trial rights, no independent judiciary, and in a prison, the largest in the hemisphere, that's been condemned by human rights organizations for torture tactics and other human rights abuses. And let me say, having personally represented people accused of being gang members, I can tell you repeatedly that I have seen juries, judges, and even prosecutors find the allegations of criminal street gang membership or affiliation to be not true. But with the people who are now in this nightmare prison in El Salvador, there was no independent review of evidence, no testing of it, so they're not having the opportunity to demonstrate that. When community members who are accused get their day in court and decisions are made based on evidence instead of allegations, when testimony can be tested using the tool of cross-examination, when decision makers can hear the full story instead of just stereotypes, then more just outcomes happen. That is what a democracy is about, and that is what distinguishes our country from others. The Trump administration's actions were horrific, terrifying, and outrageous. They were also blatantly illegal and unconstitutional, which is why a judge, at least for now, stopped the administration in its tracks. But we can't simply wait for lawyers and judges to be the only line of defense. We must all rise and stand up. And I invite all people, anyone who is listening, to step up, to be engaged, to participate in our democracy, and to prevent this authoritarian push. It's time for a massive, nationwide, aggressive, peaceful, and nonviolent resistance. This city in this country have proven time and time again that we can be successful. That is what democracy is all about. Our country's procedural legal protections were enacted to protect all of us. When those fundamental due process rights are violated for the most vulnerable, well, it's not long before those rights are eroded for everyone else. When 120,000 Japanese Americans were incarcerated by the federal government with no due process, there were many witnesses to these blatant violations of constitutional rights who were silent and thereby complicit. Today, as witnesses to these gross human rights violations, we will not be complicit. We're here today to condemn, to vigorously oppose, and to call out the federal government's illegal actions. And we will not relent until those rights are restored. Thank you.